Hi everyone, welcome to Bored to Death. I'm here with Felicia Mezzanotte.
I guess this is Giancarlo.
What do you mean you guess? No, I'm someone else. I'm an imposter.
This is Giancarlo.
I make a nice like introduction for you.
And I ruin it. That would have been cool if you would have I'm sure Luca could do that somehow with his CGI stuff.
Yeah.
You turn into an ant? This
reason
pops out
why,
of him.
because we're doing a review of March of the Ants, right?
Explore, evolve, emerge, victorious.
Something Felicia never did.
I've emerged.
Never evolved. In March of the Ants, players will control their ant colony through the seasons. The player with the most colony points at the end of the final round wins. Start by creating the meadow by placing the Great Tunnel in the middle of the table with the leaf-shaped round marker on 1 for a standard game. Each player will take a nest mat, choose a color, and take their appropriate pieces. Their player marker will go on the start space of the score track. They'll place 5 cubes as larvae in their larva chamber and 1 cube as an ant in the Great Tunnel. 2 food tokens will go into their food stores area. Place the double-sided wormhole/centipede tokens in a pool. Shuffle the cards, deal 2 to each player and form a deck with the rest. Take the standard hexes, the ones with the black border, shuffle them and place them face down. Take 2 starting hexes per player, the ones with the gold border, shuffle them and place them on top of the standard hexes. Give everyone a player aid card for quick reference. And lastly, determine a first player, give him the active player marker with the sunny side up, and you'll be ready to play.
Each round consists of 4 phases. Conveniently marked on each nest mat, and always in this order: worker phase, soldier phase, queen phase, and slumber. The worker phase is where the active player will decide to take one of the available options. For each of these options, besides rest, when the active player does the action, the other players will get to do an action based on the action the active player chooses. These are called reactions. Let's look at these options in detail. Explore will cost you 1 food. Simply remove it from your food stores. Here you'll draw and place 1 hex on an adjacent empty space where you have at least 1 ant. You must connect the tunnels together from where you came. Then you must move at least 1 ant from the tile you came from onto the new hex. Should they be placed on the space with the 3 black spikes, they will be considered to be controlling that tile as well. We'll get into these spaces a little later on. If no spaces are available, place them on the outskirts of the tile. As a reaction to explore, the other players may place 1 larvae from their chamber onto any tile they inhabit, or the Great Tunnel. Moving a larvae onto the meadow will transform them into ants. For 1 food token, a player may decide to march. Here a player will have 5 moves or steps they can take, plus an additional step for every thorax evolution card they have. They can place a larvae on any tile they inhabit or the Great Tunnel for 1 move each, should they choose to, and then move any ants from one connecting tile to another for 1 move as well. Should the tiles have a wormhole, you can move directly from one to the other for 1 step as well. As a reaction, the other players may move 1 ant and only 1 ant, 1 step.
For 1 food, a player may decide to forage. This simply means they'll draw 2 cards. As a reaction, other players may gain a larva. They'll take 1 from the general supply of their color and add it to their chamber. To play these cards, a player would have to take the action, play a card. The cost for these is not food, but rather payable through either larvae and or ants. Simply remove the cost from your larva chamber or meadow. There are 3 types of cards: events, goals, and evolution. Events are discarded after played, and the player does the card's effect. Goals are placed up next to their nest mat. These will give you bonus victory or colony points should the requirement be met at a given time. And evolution are placed in the appropriate ant space on the nest mat, either head, thorax, or abdomen. These are clearly listed on the cards as icons for easy reference. Besides the effect of the top card, each same type body part will add a bonus for things in the game. For each head evolution, you'll increase your army strength by 1 during battles. Each thorax will give you 1 more step during the march action, and each abdomen will feed an extra ant when feeding time comes. For each completed set of 3 different body parts, the player will score 3 colony points.
The last action a player may choose from the worker phase, unless it's their first action, is rest. When a player rests, they'll place a larva from the reserve onto the first space in the resting area. For each subsequent time they rest, they'll add a food onto the resting area. When another player rests, they'll flip their active player to the moon side to indicate they'll be the starting player next round. And we move on to the soldier phase.
All tiles besides the Great Tunnel that are contested, meaning that there are more ants than spaces from at least 2 different players, will hold a battle. These battles are resolved in order from the lowest number tiles to the highest. Both players will determine their army strength by adding the number of ants they have on that tile, plus the number of head evolution cards they have on their nest mat. Then, the invading player may play a card from their hand face down. The defender may then play 1 card as well face down. They'll add their ferocity value, the number in the black icon, to their army strength. Both armies will take casualties. The loser will lose ants equal to the winner's initial army strength, while the winner will lose half the initial army strength of the defender rounded up. The winner also gains 1 colony point and moves his ants to inhabit any empty spaces on that tile.
When all battles are resolved, we moved on to the queen phase. First, during the harvest, each player will collect any resources from spaces they inhabit. Then the players must feed their ants. 1 food token will feed 1 to 4 ants. Each abdomen evolution card you have will allow you to feed an extra ant per food token spent. For each ant that was not fed by the food tokens, a player will have to remove a larvae from their chamber. If still more ants aren't fed because both food and larvae ran out, you must remove those ants from the meadow. And the last phase in the round is slumber. This is like a scoring phase. Each player will gain 1 colony point for each inner meadow hex they control. The round marker is moved 1 space and the player with the active player marker flips it sunny side up and a new round begins. At the end of the final round, there is 1 additional scoring step to take. The players with the greatest stores, most food, largest brood, most larvae, and untold potential, most cards, gain 3 colony points respectively. The player with the most colony points wins.
I love how this game could easily have gone with a fantasy or sci-fi theme, but it didn't. It's refreshing, and not only that, but its theme is very well implemented. The artwork that comes with the game is refreshing as well and complements the theme quite nicely. It's got this nice balance between realism and cartoonesque genre. The gameplay is very solid as well. It offers players lots of choice and venues for different tactics and strategies. Players gain points through attacking, controlling hexes, getting a set of evolution cards, meeting objectives, and having the most type of resource or cards at the end of the game. Couple all these strategies with different modes from solo, co-op, and advanced play with different ant abilities, and every game of March of the Ant is always different, adding a lot to replay value. And we did play this game more than once, even after looking at it for a review site, just for personal enjoyment. The game is fairly balanced, but some cards are just better than others with no drawbacks. There's just no reason for not playing them. Like the event card, Cache of Eggs. There's no reason to play it for its ferocity value of 1, so just pay a larva to get 3 back and the card. But the imbalance in the game is not overwhelming, so strategy and tactics prevail over luck, so only a half-point penalty there. The rulebook is extremely well written with great examples, but there is quite a bit of info that even with player aids, we sometimes miss some steps and have to remember what does what, so we had to pause the game a couple of times. But besides that, the game offers no downtime with the great reaction mechanics, and player interaction is high. This game reminded us a lot of Eclipse in terms of resource management, tile placement, and player interaction, but at a quicker end time. And March of the Ant executes all these mechanics quite well. We strongly recommend it, and it's staying in our gaming library. March of the Ant gets 8.5 army strength out of 10.